Well, viewers, listeners, what you just missed, Rodney pulled out the Tropical Punch Kool-Aid.
Yes,
and
sir.
had a nice big plastic cup of it.
Yes, sir. 99 cents.
So he's taking us way, way back.
Taking it to the head.
For those of you that don't know the origin of Baby Hair 562, Rodney will tell you that 562 is his area code in Long Beach, and he will be telling the truth. However, what he's really telling us subliminally is Baby Hair was discovered on him back in 562 BC. So hence Baby Hair 562. He just dropped off the BC. So we don't know. That being said, this is historic episode 20 of the Collective Podcast.
Yeah.
Thank you, Anchor and Spotify listeners. Thank you, YouTube viewers. Without you, we are just voices. But with you, we are a collective voice trying to bring you what we need to bring you and maybe even bring about some change, raise some awareness, all of that. So again, thank you, YouTube viewers, Anchor and Spotify listeners, and everybody else who picks up excerpts here and there. Thank you all the guests that we've had thus far. Again, historic episode 20. Brothers, let's talk.
20 weeks in, man. 20 weeks. Pretty awesome.
Yeah. And so Rod is Baby Hair 562, Rodney Saucier out of Long Beach, California. Trey Hop, that's TreVon Hopson out of Los Angeles, California, but now he lives up by Kanye. So he's a little further from LA.
Running mate.
A little closer to Hidden Hills. And then my man who's always posing with some kind of foliage, whether it be a tree, a bush, or a plant. He's always willing to share his camera. That's Hardcore Peace, Mike Tillery, out of Philadelphia, PA, and other places such as Delaware and some other stuff. Like he's well-traveled. Well, luckily, all three of these guys are well-traveled. And we together are the collective. I'm Anthony Carter, AC from LA, AC, Tony, Flash, however you know me, thank you. Hey. So what's up? Let's get into it. We've got, bless you, Rob. We've got some news, albeit news without a lot of information about a certain quarterback who led his team to an accidental victory in the Super Bowl over the underdog San Francisco 49ers. No, just kidding. He did that thing. As a 49er fan, I admit he did that thing. Patrick Mahomes signs a contract extension with the Kansas City Chiefs that takes him through 2031, the year 2031. React.
Wow. I mean, this is the way sports is headed. You know, if you show improve, especially early on in your career, and you have a great market value, then you can explode the bank. I mean, just goes to show you how much money these leagues really have. You know, sometimes NFL never cries about money, but other leagues cry about money. And then a contract like this comes out of the blue. Was also looks like public relations in this COVID era as well. To be able to sign a contract like that, God bless the man for having the talent to do so. I mean, he is a special quarterback, and he will be seen as a special talent, for years after he gets out of here because of what he's done so early on. Congratulations to Patrick Mahomes for getting that big contract. What's next? 2 years, $1 million, 2 years, 100 mil, 100 billion. That's like Porky Pig there, baby.
Well, listen. In solidarity with the Kansas City Chiefs, I am now signing myself to a 10-year contract with Recon Credit Repair. So I am here for the foreseeable future. I have signed myself, Anthony Carter will be with Recon Credit Repair for at least the next 10 years. My contract goes through 2031 also. Hey, what you got, Trey?
Oh man, man. Congrats to him, man. Congrats to him. That means he's gonna be with that team forever. He never has to worry about being traded. He never has to be really worried about anything. They put that trust in him, and that's got to be a good feeling, man. That's got to be a good number as well. You know what I mean? To just set him up for success. He's a great quarterback, man. Like, exciting. He's on an exciting team. He's got a great coach over there. The coach that he has over there, that's one of my favorite coaches because it goes back to Philly, So, yeah, man, proud of him. Proud of the organization, man. And, more power to him. Let's play football.
What you got, Rob?
Obviously, it's probably upwards of at least 480 million, I'm guessing, over 10 years. I doubt if he would settle for anything closer to what other people are doing, considering how long the contract is and considering that, other deals will be taking place as far as television and other QBs renegotiating. But with that fact, he has a huge responsibility on his back, a huge target, especially being a black quarterback. And I hope he understands his place in history and moves the game forward for not just for the game, but for African American quarterbacks.
So for me, it's a really, really interesting situation, and it's fun to speculate because there were no terms released right now. So off air, we started speculating, and Rodney said between 450 and 500, and now he settled on 480. What's interesting is it's one of those things where he can potentially set the market, or he can set a trend, which is locking in your quarterback for their entire career, but then wait for the market to unfold. So I imagine a world in which maybe he's not signing for 480 to 500 million, but he is signing on to be, let's say, within 5% of the highest paid quarterback every single season. And so let's say he did sign for 480 million for 10 years. That's an average of 480. But whatever the market is now, what's the market now? Like 30 million for a quarterback? 35?
Yeah.
40. It's gonna be 40 with Dak.
Okay. And is that happening this offseason, or is that happening next year?
Probably in 2031.
Okay. So right now, like who I got you 21. Who signed?
No, I said 31.
You mean okay, that's funny.
I was about to say he didn't stutter when he said it.
Who has signed? What did Teddy Bridgewater get?
Like 7? Or was it 15?
Well, Dak's franchise tag is at 31. So
okay, that's what I want to know.
Yeah,
because I think, pretty sure Breeze signed for 1 year for 30 million, right? Let's just go with that. So the market is 31 now. Let's just say that the market's 31 because the franchise tag is tied to the market. So let's say it's 30 now, and let's say it goes up, 20% a year. And I don't know if that's the case. I don't know if it's going to go from 30 to 36. But Mike is saying 40 million whenever it happens. Here's the thing. Maybe when 2027 hits, the market for a quarterback or a top-tier quarterback is 60 million, 70 million. It's possible that it's 38 million, but not likely because that's 7 years from now. So rather than sign this contract that would be worth $48 million, or contract extension, which would be worth $48 million a year or $50 million a year, maybe he signed on to be the highest paid quarterback every year for the next, for the 10 years of the contract, or within 5%. I say top 3, but if you have like 10 quarterbacks that are tied, then they can't all be top 3, right? So if the quarterback says something like within 5% of the highest paid quarterback, then he would have been the highest paid quarterback for the entirety of his contract, as opposed to potentially being 10th, 11th, 12th, 13th, whatever on the list if the market is crazy toward the end. And it's all just speculation, but that's just...
I mean, it could be that, or it could be something even north of 500, because that has to be, unless your idea makes the most sense, because that would be a smart decision, in my opinion. But just looking at the years might inflate that number to be something crazy based on what the market potentially could be at that time.
Yeah.
And they were like an A-Rod type contract. When that happened, everybody was like, "Wow, whoa!" But that's where the numbers are now. Especially somebody as marketable as him, face of the league, so that means that Lamar Jackson and Deshaun Watson, they do for big paydays too.
Yeah, absolutely. Now here's my question: you just mentioned A-Rod, which I'm assuming is Alex Rodriguez. And you mentioned his contract. So I'm assuming you're talking about the Texas Rangers. I just want to make sure you're not talking about any other team. Ones. So where was the second one?
With the Yankees.
See, you did it, not me. All right, so Mike clearly wanted us to talk about October 17th through October 20th, 2004. Nobody even talking baseball, and here he goes back to the Yankees. I even gave him an out. I said, "Hey, we're talking about the Rangers, right?" And then here he goes. So for those who have forgotten, October 17th was Game 4 of 2004. Was Game 4 of the American League Championship Series between the Boston Red Sox and Mike Tillery's New York Yankees. They were talking about blowing up the Red Sox, like dismantling the team, because they were getting swept by their bitter rivals. And the idea was, is it really a rivalry if one team never wins? It's kind of like the Lakers Clippers. It's not really a rivalry. Got 16 championships to 0. But anyway, so, the Yankees, you got my man Pedro talking about the Yankees whip me and I let them whip me and I call them my daddy. All of that, just all kinds of embarrassing stuff. But on October 17th, the world changed forever. The Red Sox won Game 4, which made it 3-1. Oh, my goodness. October 18th, the Red Sox won Game 5, which made it 3-2. On October 19th, the Red Sox won Game 6 to tie it up. And then October 20th, I'll just leave you in suspense. I don't want to mess with Mike. All right. So, yeah, A-Rod, what a contract. Don't know why we had to talk about A-Rod, but Lamar Jackson and Deshaun Watson, absolutely. I'm so happy for Teddy Bridgewater and the fact that he got a contract, I'm happy that he got a contract. I think it sucks, though, that a lot of times our quarterbacks have to take what they can get and can't really necessarily deal with the uncertainty. Shout out to Dak for being able to do that, having that wherewithal to say, all right, we can do this year by year, but when I escape, or if you let me escape, you're going to see. Teddy spent all that time as a backup and did extremely well anytime that he was at the helm, and is now locked in. One thing that did happen, we talked about this last week. We had Cam sign with New England, and I've seen all kinds of speculation about who does more for their team. Is it Cam in New England or Tom Brady in Tampa Bay? And we talked about this. We talked about the fact that no matter what Cam does, it's kind of a no-win situation for him unless he wins the Super Bowl. But then even if that happens, we imagine they're going to put that on Belichick. They're going to say, see, we told you it was the system. We told you it was Belichick. It wasn't Cam, even though they wrote Brady off in the system. I just don't see a great upside for Cam. But hey, as long as he does perform, he'll get his payday. He'll get his payday and hopefully his long-term contract in the future. But one of the things we were talking about off air that I'd like to introduce now is one of those sensationalists that we call journalists out there happened to big up Randy Moss while putting down Cam. And I guess someone was making an argument about Cam and Randy Moss, and his response was, slow down. Randy Moss was the most talented receiver in the history of the NFL, and Cam Newton wasn't even the most talented quarterback in his division. Sounds a little disrespectful, but I'll go last. Fellas, react.
Very disrespectful when you think of who's in that division. You got Drew Brees for the Saints. Could really actually go down in history as one of the greatest quarterbacks ever, which I'm sure he will probably be called that. So that means that Cam is at least as good as that, considering Cam was doing things before Drew Brees got to that level. He had already been to a Super Bowl before Drew, I think. Or had they won and then Cam went and then how did it go?
That way.
Yeah, Brees was there.
Okay, so but Cam went soon after. So
right.
That speaks of how good he was playing in a system designed by a defense coordinator versus right. Sean Payton, who's supposed to be an offensive guru, and he's doing the same type of things with a run first team, and still putting up numbers. I mean that's you got the other quarterback from Atlanta who's putting up numbers but can't get out of the first round or even sometimes get to the playoffs. I mean, and then the other teams in the division really don't even matter. You got Atlanta, New Orleans, and Carolina, and the other teams don't matter. That's completely disrespectful. He's kept him relevant his whole career.
I mean, what I've noticed, throughout my path in journalism is, some cats will latch on to, elite athletes, and it's kind of what rises them to the top in terms of their exposure. Cowherd seems to be one of them guys. I mean, him and I have had many disagreements over the years. I cringe when somebody posts on my page something he said because, you kind of figure out their history after a while, and their trends. Like there's nothing that really. Oh yeah, very much. It's not a shock to me. I don't see why he would not say what he said. I mean, he can't go 100% right and talk about both players as they are. The thing that will be missed with Cam throughout his career is people will say the athlete thing. And this is why I'm saying Cowherd might be saying what he says. We're all just be seen as athletes. And even despite the winning records, and stats, as Anthony alluded to, they're still going to see them as athletes. That's just the way it is. We ain't post a black quarterback, more criticism than their counterparts. I don't expect them to be there anytime soon, despite all this that's going on in the world. We have cats like Cowherd be Cowherd. I mean, that's what he does. He creates the dramas, so he can stay relevant when Anthony said, when he falls off. He hasn't been relevant, I mean, so what? I don't understand. It's Colin Cowherd. If one of us said this, I would be, that's more shock and all. But Colin Cowherd just being Colin Cowherd, was.
Yeah. Well, I guess it just gave us another opportunity to break something down. So one of the things that Rod alluded to was it's one of those shock statements, right? Because even if it's true, like Rod said, and I don't believe that it's true, because we talked earlier about talent versus like overall talent versus production versus ability. Like there are several components to what make players great. So even the first part of the statement with him saying Randy Moss is the most talented NFL history, great. Randy Moss can be the most talented. But Randy Moss was not the greatest receiver. And I know that's not even this discussion, but I'm going somewhere with this. He's not the greatest receiver in history. That would be Jerry Rice, who wasn't the most talented, but I think did more with his talent than anybody in history at the position. So moving over to New Orleans, even if it were true, and again, I don't believe it is, but even if it were true, like Rodney said, Drew Brees is spoken about like he's the third coming. Like he's spoken about like he is, like there's an actual discussion like about the three active guys right now being the greatest of all time. Yeah. And that's Brady, that's Brees, and that's Aaron Rodgers. So when you say not even the most talented in his division, and he's in a division with someone who is looked upon as like on the current Mount Rushmore of quarterbacks, then it's like, so what? However, Cam hasn't won a Super Bowl, but Cam has led his team to a Super Bowl. Cam's been an MVP. Cam does things with his legs and his mind that Drew Brees could only dream of. Drew Brees has been in a system which is very complementary to Drew Brees, right? This is the same Drew Brees that was in San Diego. So if you look at the beginning of his career versus the beginning of Cam's career, Cam kicked in the door when he walked in, like no other.
Right.
Or like few others, but I would say like no other. And I know that I'll get a nod from Mike because Mike says like no other. So it's just disrespectful to just write him off like that. Like it's you know what it is? You know what else it is? It's irresponsible, but I guess Mike kind of.
We all know why. I said we all know why. They're like the three quarterbacks you just mentioned, and they're going to be put on this pedestal and things of that. I mean, do we need to say, you know what I mean? They're white.
And they have a whole generation of like superior elite talent coming in the same conference.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, these dudes are going to be, can you imagine what's going to happen if all these dudes' careers play out? They're going to be all Hall of Famers, right? And, how they'll be spoken about, again, if everything goes right, for the next 12, 14 years. What would the league resemble at that point? The salaries. I mean, at that point, there truly would be probably a $1 billion, $2 billion contract, probably, if everything goes back to where it is. But I mean, again, man. I mean, I can't belabor this point. It's the definition, how they define Cam Newton. They just say, look, he's an athlete to be able to do what he does, and that's how he remains productive. They don't talk about the 4th and 10 versus Alabama. That essentially won him the Heisman Trophy in the championship. The 400-yard passes games. Coming out of the box. I mean, there's so many things. That's That's why I was trying to say, sometimes where, the conversation can't even become sane on athletes and events based on the low, like how these conversations are so lowballed because it's journalism. You know what I mean? In journalism, you want to lowball everything so you have more stories to generate. It's the same thing with Cowherd's doing on his show. Now he's going to have people looking at him that hate him, and they're going to watch the show just because of what he said. These things, it's just sports. The people out there with the same pens who don't have such a production agenda just have to write the stories right. You know what I mean? And let them do what they're going to do. If they're the popular perspective as history is written, then that's when you also come in and try to smack that down too. But but I know better. That's why I talk high about these players because I look at the production. I looked at the wins. So if you're looking at the production, the wins, and the accomplishments, the MVPs, the Super Bowl appearances, with the offensive team that he had at the time, he had a great defense, of course. But if we're just going to just define him on not going after a fumble or the way he dressed, then the conversation is never going to become same about him. Despite him possibly doing what he does in New England, I can't see him but doing great things in New England. But as I said before, we talked about before, there's not going to be a season. This may never be proven.
Yeah, you said it, man. That's
Like I'm saying, the timing of Mahomes' contract is also, interesting. It's the NBA, NFL PR machine, just doing what they do. And that's why it's the biggest thing in sports.
and the argument that they'll always use is, well, Breeze has a Super Bowl, so that puts him on that pedestal over Cam Newton. But
I bet that we put Phillip Rivers over Cam Newton right now. We all talk about Phillip Rivers. It's like I said, man. Once this group of quarterbacks, does what they do, maybe get a couple Super Bowls here and there, and go on and retire, there's going to be a different Mount Rushmore in 12 years. And further after that, when I think that the offensive linemen will actually shrink in stature to be able to block for these quarterbacks that's going to come in and just kind of redefine how the league is looked at. I see the game getting a lot faster than it is as they try to create all these safety measures to keep the game marketable. But once these quarterbacks come in, and it's going to be apparent that to win because of the quickness of these Jadeveon Clowney-like defenders, you're going to need a fast quarterback. Maybe it goes to the two quarterback system. You got a statue guy, you got a runner. But it's going to be interesting to see. But this all is going to be a different conversation in 10 to 12 years, because if Deshaun Watson continues to be as clutch as he is, he's going to get a ring. They're going to rectify the ills, by trading the number one receiver, and they're going to get somebody in there because they're going to have to, because he's that talented. You need that talent around him. The defenses obviously want to be amped up, or have to be amped up as well, so Houston can really compete with the Baltimores and the New Englands and the Kansas City, But I don't know, man. I don't know. We'll just have to wait and see if the season has started. But it seems like the NFL also puts out this exciting build-up to the season, and everybody can't wait. It's like Christmas Day when NFL Game 1 comes on to start the season. So, this is all a part of that. I mean, I hope everybody gets to play. I hope nobody gets sick. But it just doesn't look like that's going to be even a consideration at this point.
Wow, pretty powerful. Yeah. So once again, thank you to YouTube viewership. Thank you to Anchor and Spotify listenership, I want to talk about something that has definitely been something that's been celebrated amongst this group of guys, not on air yet, but we've talked about it behind the scenes. And now that I'm actually looking at the responses to this young man's tweet, boy, are these people disgusting. They are disgusting. But I normally introduce topics, but I am going to share a tweet and the subsequent replies, and I'll let Rodney talk through this. So here we are. No, hold on. Share too much. Give me a second. I only wanted to share this. All right, that's better. Bam. You want me to read the tweet, Rod, and then you can take it away?
Yep.
Okay. So this is from a young man named Makur Maker, and he was set to announce where he'd be taking his talents for college basketball, in fact. And so here's what he had to say on Friday, July 3rd. And I quote, "I was the first to announce my visit to Howard, and others started to dream, what if? I need to make the HBCU movement real so that others will follow. I hope I inspire guys like Mikey Williams to join me on this journey. I am committing to Howard U and Coach Kenny Blakeney. Hashtag Maker Mob." Take it away, Rod.
Man, I've been dreaming of this moment for I can't even tell you how many years. I've been talking about it. I was even talking about it when I was at Howard as a student. When I think I may have mentioned it before, but when I first went to Howard,
1800.
66.
As a freshman in the 80s, I'm fresh off the plane. And before I can even get to a basketball or football game, I'm thinking HBCU, five brothers walk on the basketball court. They got to be some real hoopers, in the hotbed of hoop, which is DC, the DMV area, the tri-state area, New York, Philly, and Jersey. I'm thinking between those two spaces, this has got to be a school with some real hoopers. And lo and behold, I walk in there and I'm like, this is terrible. But I understood why, because the best hoopers went to big schools. And so I always thought when I would see, I've been watching Coach K over the years and Roy Williams, and just like everyone else, I mean, they get all of the publicity and the TV time. And I watched Coach K for years lose, and he started to have a knock on him. Coach K can't win the big one. He had all these players, and they were really hyped white players, and he had black players on his team. But Duke was always thought of, and I'm just using them as an example, a whitewashed team. Like even the black kids that went on there were kind of whitewashed. And so I said he's racking up all these wins. Roy Williams is racking up all these wins, and I'm looking at Roy Williams and I'm looking at his system, and I'm like, I don't see what the hype is. Like what if these players like Danny Manning and some of the other players that he's had over the years went to a HBCU and they just still be just as good? And these coaches would then get all of these wins and accolades. So I began to talk about that type of stuff in as early as 80, 87, 88, 89, up until now. And when I read this the other day that someone sent it to me in a text message, and I said, "No, this is some kind of hoax. Let me fact check this." And then I go on ESPN and I go on a couple other sites, and I'm like, this dude really committed to Howard. Um, I lost my mind, lost it. I was it was unbelievable to me, and
Great to know that me tagging you meant nothing. You had to get it in a text from somewhere else and then go fact check it.
well, no,
I
no, no. I
tagged
got
you
yours.
immediately.
I got yours after.
Yeah.
Uh, my friend Alicia, who's also a Howard alum, she actually hit me first. I, I always know that you fact check your stuff, so I didn't have to check you. But
Okay.
Alicia's not a sports person, so I had to fact check her.
Okay.
Um, and it was legit. So I was blown away, and this is like I said before, and I've said it several times on the show. George Floyd is the best thing that's happened to us in years, in a long time, since the civil rights movement. Um, he sparked this. I don't think that these players would have understood what it means to commit to HBCUs before this point. There was always talk, it'll never happen. And I just read a column on USA Today the other day, their opinion column, that says, "Oh, that's nice of Maker to make this gesture, but it's not going to really do anything because these kids are they want to fly chartered planes and they want these top rated facilities, and he's just a drop in the bucket." And I said no. When I read the article, I said no. There are other kids with his mindset. There are other kids that want the glitz and glamour of a Kentucky or a UMass or something like that. But just like some of these other smaller schools like Gonzaga and Virginia Commonwealth made a name for themselves, not on the level of Kentucky, but fought and got there and started getting the exposure. The HBCUs can do the exact same thing. And they even have other players considering Howard and some of the other HBCUs, in the MEAC and the SWAC. Alabama State signed three people, being coached by Mo Williams, the former Cleveland Cavalier. Morgan State just signed someone. Um, and you got Maker, who's a five-star player. Hopefully these players do play a year at the school. I mean, I don't know how it's going to be for Maker, considering the pandemic is killing sports this season, and he's set to enroll this year. But hopefully, him committing and urging other players to sign with him will help the situation, because when they sign, and I've always said this, the money follows. You get exposure because people want to see the best players. If the best players start to sign with HBCUs instead of a Kentucky or a Michigan State, the cameras are going to go where the best players are. So this particular writer says, "Oh, these big schools are not going to want to schedule them." Well, so be it. And then he went on to say that they don't have the facilities to hold huge crowds. Well, this is how you get those facilities. When you start packing
Period.
out that when you start packing out that 3,000 seat stadium every night, you get the revenue to get a bigger stadium. It doesn't just happen overnight. Um, that's how some of these bigger schools got what they have. And when it really starts to take off in football, because I think football will be the key, considering that they have to stay in longer and they have time to get more incoming freshmen playing with upperclassmen and develop some depth to handle some of these bigger schools. I think that will be the key. Basketball is a great start, a great start. And if we can get, some pushes behind it, Howard has a lot of great alumni like Diddy, Taraji P. Henson, Anthony Anderson, who was one of my old next door neighbors in college. Tracy Morning was another next door neighbor to me in college, wife of Alonzo Morning. We get some of those people, you know, who are actually sports fans donating and maybe get someone like Jordan gave 100 million, but instead of the 100 million, putting his name behind it and saying, "Hey, kids, this is something special that you can do," and outfitting the team and getting Nike or someone to come in and upgrade the facilities, the locker room. I mean, if he can get them to build him a sports gym uh, dome in the parking lot in Hollywood to shoot Space Jam for a few months, he definitely can get Nike to come in and upgrade a weight room. I mean, things like that where they'll have a long lasting effect because throwing money behind a situation and just walking away, we don't know where that money goes. Just to say we're going to throw money behind a black cause. Well, we got a lot of black causes. That's just like saying we're going to throw money behind cancer. Well, which one? You know, breast cancer, leukemia, prostate, which cancer? So we can't just throw money behind it. The people who are in position to make a name for the school have to put their name and their brand behind the school and behind the sports program. And that's when you'll really see it take off. So I'm proud of Maker, man. He's Thon Maker's cousin. He's a 7 footer. He's legit. You know, he can handle the ball. He can shoot from distance. He's a legit player, and he can change the program by himself.
Yeah. So thank you for that, Rod. So I'm going to go into a couple of the comments on that followed his tweet, and I don't often highlight ignorance, but I'm going to. I'm not going to say anyone's names, but so this is someone replying directly to him on the day that he made the announcement. Quote, "I'm sure practicing every day against a roster that went," and for some reason this idiot capitalized roster. "I'm sure practicing every day against a roster that went 4-29 last season, capital W, will help you develop and refine your skills for the NBA." And then he's got like an Android happy face crying, or excuse me, crying face. No, laughing face with the tears. So I'm not sure that this person who's weighing in on this really understands how basketball works.
Right.
People, most of the top talent is trying to find a place to do a year for their one and done year. So this is not, and not that this would matter, but this is not a 3-star recruit trying to make a name for himself while also trying to take a stand and trying to uplift HBCUs. This is one of the top handful of players announcing, like, this guy's going to the NBA. He's announcing that he's going to be at Howard for at least 1 year. And again, we don't know how that'll work out, because if we don't have a season at all, then he'll probably just declare for the draft and he won't even go, he won't even wind up doing the year. But it doesn't matter that Howard's roster was 4-29. Him arriving automatically makes them better. They automatically, no matter how many wins they have, become a threat in the MEAC tournament, and the winner of the MEAC tournament gets an automatic bid to the NCAA tournament, right. Which takes me to someone else's comment. Let's see. Something about not sniffing the NCAA tournament. Oh, yeah. Why, though? THO, ? Going to a team that won't even sniff the NCAA tournament. Shaking my head. Well, who says they won't sniff the NCAA tournament?
Right.
You win your conference tournament and you get an automatic bid, and then who knows what happens. He's a difference maker. He knows that he's a difference maker. Here's another one. This is actually a positive one from someone who seems to be a little misguided in other areas, but here's what he says. "What a great year for HBCUs. First, President 45, and he says his name, but I won't, commits to giving more than $250 million a year to HBCUs, and now a 5-star recruit commits to Howard. So again, this guy's a little misguided in other areas, but he's at least big upping this this young man. And then there are several people who say things like, imagine how powerful HBCUs would be if all the top Black talent attended these schools. I believe a potential national champion could be born. And then there are several other positive ones, but the negative ones are just like, oh, here's another one, a negative one. Gotta love when they self-segregate themselves. And then he gives a white thumbs up.
Right.
Huh? Like,
yeah, see, this is just what Mizzo said it best. He said it last week. He said, we got to stop reacting to these clowns. You know what I mean? Like, they come and they say this stuff, and we give them the response that they want because we show that we care. Like, an idiot knows he's an idiot, and the people that wrote it, I'm sure they've been called an idiot before. So why even entertain it? And these would be the same people that if he gets over there and he's doing well and doing this, that, and the other, they're probably bandwagoners. They're going to come jump right on the bandwagon and be rooting for him. You know what I'm saying? Opposed to just wish the kid good success at his time that he's there, man, and support what he's trying to do. You know? Like, it's sad.
One thing I didn't mention is DC is the perfect place for this to happen because it's been gentrified so much. That you have a lot of young white people who love sports, who would love to get a chance to see the top players in their city, regardless of where the school is located or what school it is. And it wouldn't matter if it was George Washington, if it was Catholic U or Howard. These people have gone to schools that have had big successful basketball programs, and I'm sure that they would love to have the chance to say, well, I watched this guy in college, the school was near my home, and we got a chance to see him play. And that's revenue, you know.
How many people gonna watch this kid now that he made that choice? You know what I mean? Like, if he was on like a Kentucky or something like that, then yeah, if the game come on, I'll watch it. I'll probably follow him because they're always good. They're always good. You know what I mean? But by him making this decision, going to this school, I'm gonna go out of my way to watch these games because I want to see how he's doing now. You know what I mean?
And they've made other comments about he's not gonna get the level of coaching, which I thought was absurd. I mean, that was probably the worst slap in the face that I heard through the whole thing. Because I can only point to Steve Alford. He had great talent at UCLA, and he was terrible. And I knew that was a terrible hire from the time they signed him. And you have Black coaches, assistants sitting on the bench of NBA teams and college teams all over the country right now who could step in and do the job that they're not getting the opportunity to do. So, you know, that was one of the biggest slaps in the face.
It was, you know, it was a bittersweet moment for me because, you know, Kevin Nickerberry is a friend of mine.
Yeah.
You know, and I just don't feel like he got a fair shake there. You know, you know, I am grateful that Maker is making this move. So Blakely, you know, capitalizes. I mean, it's good. This is the reason why I always gave like true respect to like a Big House Gaines, you know, and many of those type coaches. They're always there for us, you know. You know, he had all those wins, and you know, he obviously had special players. It's crazy. He even coached Stephen A. Smith. My boy Branson Wright called him Mr. Pedestrian because he always walked when he was there. But yeah, this is gonna be great for Black coaching, man. You know, and I think in a weird kind of way, I think it's also going to strengthen, you know, the North Carolinas, the Dukes, and everything else because you know they want to get their seniors. You know, they'll have seniors playing now. If this trend actually happens to where you know guys are sprinkled all over, I saw some type of report saying that Bronny James might go to Central, North Carolina Central.
Yeah.
You know, so if this continues to happen, and it's nothing but greatness for black basketball in general to be looked at the same. It's almost like you have HBCUs now. When I watch the football game, you see speed all over the floor, all over the field, but these guys don't get real shine to where they can go to the next level, even though I think that they're athletically capable to play. Those guys are going to start to get the spotlight now. Those guys that nobody is looking at, that's super athletic, and they'll be able to contribute to a team with TreVon Maker on it, in basketball. I mean, not TreVon Maker, Makur Maker, you know. His brother is who I thought TreVon was going to be when he entered the league, because he was the left-handed, very gifted, and I hope that his career pans out. But Makur going to Howard is a big thing, man. Them Hampton Howard games are going to be ridiculous now, right?
Yeah.
They're going to be ridiculous, and they're already one of the best nights in town.
Yeah. And you got more regional sports on being televised anyway nowadays. You get to see the Big West and the MEAC play more often than we did back in the day. ESPN got several channels now.
Mm-hmm.
So, they might not be in that prime time slot at 4 p.m. on Saturday against a Kentucky or, one of those schools, but I'm cool watching them on Tuesday evening at 6,
Yeah.
And a rivalry game. I mean, like teams like Gonzaga and like I said, and Richmond, they had to start somewhere. They didn't just all of a sudden pop up as these great basketball schools. Gonzaga's been relevant, for the past 10 years or so? They weren't always this powerhouse team in the top 5 every year before that. So
Spread the wealth.
Yeah.
Spread the wealth. That's what happened. The true parity is happening. Like every couple of years, if this continues to be a trend, you're going to see like a Howard or Hampton or even Delaware State or something like that in the Final Four. And that's going to change everything from a recruiting standpoint. Once somebody finally breaks through and gets at least to the Final Four, this whole spotlight that we're talking now is going to be even bigger, because that's going to be the storyline for the Final Four. The experiment works. And with all these players, going to the G League and not even attending college, which is also going to be a trend. This is going to be a very interesting thing. College basketball, how will it be covered? Will different things begin to spawn because of all of this freedom to move? As more options are available for kids. I mean, this just changes everything. This changes endowments. This changes, the education at these schools, because the professors will want to come to these schools. It's going to have so much an effect. I can't see anything negative coming from this. But I'm very eager to see, the black coaches who are out there, who have always been great coaches, finally get their shine, because they'll have the wins to back.
Right.
All right. Well, shout out to Makur Maker. Good luck. Good luck. Good luck. As a Bruin, definitely happy that you went a place where you'll get some great coaching, and you would have made us better, but it probably wouldn't have even been good for your career anyway. So Howard's the move. Good for you. All right. So moving on, we see that there's the first pro league to return to play during the pandemic, excuse me, in the U.S. is the National Women's Soccer League, the NWSL. Shout out to the North Carolina Courage. That's my squad. And Lynn Williams, that's my favorite player. Shout out. Hey, there's just a plethora of talent on the field. They're playing the entire, what it's called is the Challenge Cup. So they've got 8 of the 9 teams in the league. Orlando didn't make the trip because they had 10 players and staff members test positive right before they made it into Utah, into the bubble. So they wound up with 8 teams playing in this Challenge Cup over 1 month. And each team plays 4 games basically in pool play, and then they go directly to the playoffs. And all the games are being played in at the Utah facility. The Utah entry into that league is hosting all of the games, and they have a maximum of 2 games per day. And it's exciting. Like, I love women's soccer anyway, but to see this pro league going right now has been awesome. And they're playing around 4 days per week, so I've been able to watch quite a bit. And when we went on air last week, I didn't know that the league was back, so I had to go back and watch on demand. And you best believe that I went back and watched on demand, and I'm excited to see the league back. I'm excited to see pro sports back. And it's great. They're existing in a bubble or in bubbles, 8 different bubbles, and it's very interesting. So, yeah.
I think all this is really going to redefine how we watch sports, how we interact with athletes. From camera views to refereeing and concessions and everything. Man, this is going to be a very interesting time. I think we're in a renaissance period when it comes to all things, but how sports are going to be disseminated from here on in it's going to be very interesting to see, like the precautions that we can't even imagine like now are going to be a fixture in these sports if they're to continue as they were. I don't see like a totally bad thing because of the COVID, because it is making us pay attention on different things that we never even envisioned before. Um, the face masks are everywhere. You're now starting to see them as litter. They're litter. They're on the ground. Somebody with a face mask is thrown on the ground. That's something we wouldn't have seen 6 months ago, but it's here. But I just hope all these athletes are very, very careful and nobody gets sick, because it all it takes really is that true star to actually perish. For this to look like as a failed experiment, just under the guise of capitalism, because that's what it really is. That's the reason why all these sports leagues are talked about every day, or making sure that their sport is mentioned at these outlets, because they want to continue to make the money. I know it's a business decision, I get it, but are these schools, is everybody going to be healthy, man? I mean, that's like a big if, because I don't think it's a question that anybody can answer right now. We're seeing the Premier League is out there. No one seems to be getting sick, so if it's working there, maybe it can work here, but it's just too big of an if for me.
Yeah, it's interesting. It's one of the things that we wrestle with. And when you have these pro leagues that can exist or operate in a bubble or in bubbles, but let's just say in an overall bubble, like the NBA, like let's say just the NWSL, it's working right now for the NWSL. Like, they had them there for, I think, 3 weeks. Yeah, we'll talk about that in the second round. I'm sure there's got to be an accelerator clause in there, or else that doesn't make sense, other than the stability of it. But I think he was going to be stable anyway. But that's much different than that Scottie Pippen contract. Sorry, Rodney just posted something, and so the NWSL, they're operating in a bubble, and so I believe even the officials are there operating in a bubble. But so you've got each team operating in its own bubble within the guise of the league overall bubble. So there are no fans in the stands, but these teams can watch each other play. They've got no masks on when they're actually playing in the game, but anytime that they're on the sideline, they do have masks on. And I guess the coaches don't have to wear masks during play while they're coaching. But as soon as the game is over, everybody goes back to their masks, including the referees, the camera people. They're practicing social distancing when they're interviewing people at halftime and after the game. So I think that's interesting. But what's more interesting, I'd say, for me, and kind of going to what you were saying about the concern, Mike, is if we do have sports, like for instance, for me, if we do have sports, I officiate 3 college sports. One of them I don't believe is coming back. I don't believe we're going to have a college football season. But assuming we do, what are the precautions that are in place for everybody, including the officials? I think basketball is much more realistic. I think that lacrosse is even realistic. But what will be in place for schools? Because they won't be operating in bubbles like these pro leagues. So what will we as officials be asked to do? And will we answer the call, or will we just say, no, there's too much uncertainty. So even though this is a great opportunity at a high level, no, I'm not going to do it. I don't know. I guess we'll see how it shakes out for everybody.
I mean, like, aren't these the type of things that will accelerate, like that fixture that I was alluding to earlier? Would that accelerate a fixture of artificial intelligence, refereeing games at this point? I mean, that's what it seems like to me. It just seems like, the technology will be expanded through this because it's unforeseen. It can give scientists a way to really delve into their expertise by thinking of possibilities that just weren't available before. I mean, that robot referee looks like it's coming. It's coming quick.
Yeah. So you heard it here, not first, because Mike Tillery and the rest of his sheep that are out there spreading these lies about robot referees have said it time and time again. Nah, man, we ain't going nowhere. No, here's the thing. A number of leagues have talked about officiating from the booth, if you will. And while that seems to work well for replays, it doesn't seem to work well for on the field, on the court, when it's happening in real time. You seem to need that human element, which is good for a person like me, because I don't want to be replaced by a robot. I want to continue to run up and down the field, run up and down the court. I obviously want it to be safe. I want it to be so that everyone is healthy and can remain healthy, other than like an injury or something. But I do see them actually getting to whatever they need to do to get this pandemic under wraps before I see robots officiating the games.
Yeah.
Mizzo.
I definitely need to hear what somebody is saying and body language and facial expressions and the whole nine. I don't think they can see that from the booth. They definitely can't hear everything. And it definitely makes a difference from what angle you're looking at a play. Broadcast booth, versus field and fast speed.
Yeah. And for our first time viewers, our first time listeners who don't really know Rod, that was Rod speaking. And Rod comes from the era pre-camera, pre-booth, actually pre-robot. Rodney comes from, Rodney isn't, when you talk about originals, you talk about originality, you talk about the OG. Rodney is an actual OG of the earth. So boy is he able to give great. Yeah, right? OG, triple OG. Man, original Genesis. Go ahead, Rod. So Rod gives great perspective and great insight. So just if you don't want to come back and even listen to the other three of us, at least come back and hear from one of the original men, one of the original people. The guy that actually planted the apple tree in the orchard. That
You call him the help too. He's a help too.
Man. So while I was talking about the NWSL. So anyway, shout out to the NWSL. I'm going for North Carolina there, but North Carolina's got a team. You got the Sky Blue FC out of Jersey. Houston's got a team. Utah. I know I'm missing some people, but there are 8 teams playing. Go check it out it's on major network, CBS All Access, also so on demand there. Rodney gave us information about the Mahomes contract. He says 10 years, $400 million. React.
That's low.
Yeah.
That's 40 million, right?
Yeah.
You anything about that?
He took a little less probably to make sure that some other players get signed, I'm guessing. Because I'm sure he could have gotten more.
Man. Especially with the new CBA coming up, that means that the salary cap is going to expand as well. Implore everybody, read those CBAs online. They're online. Every sport. You're a lot more educated about the sport. That seems that's that 40 mil number that resets the market, obviously.
That's low for him.
But there has to be, this guy got a Super Bowl. Is he 24 yet? What's he? Is he 24 or 25?
Yeah, somewhere around there.
Yeah, I mean, he's a ridiculously young kid. Has accomplished so much. I don't know if that number even suits him. People are going to jump out and say, "Oh my God, it's an athlete making $400 million. I'm working this 9-to-5 slaving." There's just going to be a lot of that talk now too, especially.
A lot of that might be we still don't know. A lot of it might be guaranteed.
Yeah, I would see. I'm glad you said that. I would say that his contract is probably fully guaranteed.
Probably all guaranteed. Yeah.
And then that makes it a great contract.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Right.
If he did that, it's probably all guaranteed and probably guaranteed. Yeah.
I mean, it has to be some type of talk about leaving the next deal because he only be 35. If he's 35, when it happens, so he might still have some years left. So what's that contract going to look like? And then going to be like, is he going to make so much more than he did in this current deal and that next deal? And because people are going to look at him over the course of this deal at the end as underpaid, especially if he runs off a few. This is going to be. This is interesting, man. You try to almost, calculate the things that will be changed by COVID. Like they were talking about his deal, but I don't think anybody anticipated a 10-year deal. Especially in football, in such a violent sport. He's already had what would have been seen as a career-ending injury. To put him out for a while, but 10 years, that's a lot. I understand the loyalty to the team, if there is a semblance of loyalty with him, because sports hasn't been so loyal in a while, but there seems to be a nice close-knit family there. This is what Andy probably wanted for Donovan McNabb, and he's gotten that second, chance to really have a quarterback, in his stable for 10 years. What can go wrong at this point? They're going to be the San Diego Chargers of the 80s, right? They're at least going to put up a bunch of points. If they don't win the Super Bowl, I think that, there's not 4 teams that might trade off Super Bowls for a while. But this is a interesting deal, man. I'm rambling, but you know what I mean.
Yeah, I don't see nothing shy of shit by the time he retires or once this contract is up. Like he won't be in that $1 billion club.
Yeah, that's coming.
You know what I mean?
You can now see it. $1 billion contract. You can see it.
Yep. It's coming.
So let me just ask this question though. So what happens? What happens if COVID becomes as destructive as the second wave with the Spanish flu? You know, what if that happens? Are we ever going to have sports again? Like, I think that that's something we even have to think about because of the existence of it. And we see the numbers are rising up. You know, we might not ever see sports again. Like, you know,
So I think that there's an easy answer to that. As bad as that may be, let me answer your question directly. And absolutely, because it's all about technology, right? Even if we don't have a cure, even if we don't have a vaccine, even if the numbers are, God forbid, the numbers are not going down, if there's the right protective equipment in place, then people can play sports. And so I believe that sports 100% return. I think that scientists are working on said protective equipment. I know that my cousin said he was supposed to come on the show, was talking about a mask that he and his team were working on that was specifically for athletes and officials to compete at a high level while wearing these masks that enabled them to. So
Daddy's little girl.
So, yeah, there's so 100%. There's no way sports don't return. I don't think that the equipment hasn't been released yet, but the equipment is coming that enables you to fully function, running up and down the field, running up and down the court, making contact, but having your face protected and keeping you safe from the spread.
You talking about spacesuits?
Dude, I'm just sports is coming back. It's coming back.
Gonna be the astronaut gear is gonna be the new Nike. NASA.
I think at some point they're just gonna do it. They'll start looking at numbers and saying, well, there's a lot of positive tests, but this, but that, and I think they're just gonna do it.
They did for the NBA. They said that the way that they're doing everything is going to cost about $150 million for the time that they're there. But the NBA would have lost $1 billion if we wouldn't have finished the season. So do the math. It's all about money.
It's all about money, man.
It's all about money, man. They don't care about the health.
So, okay.
That's what I'm saying. God forbid if somebody, especially big, catches it and dies, man. I mean, this trying to really eliminate that possibility, right? That would be like the biggest thing in my mind. I got to eliminate the possibility of one of my major stars getting this and dying because we're wanting this money. That's going to be a horrible disaster for public relations. You know, I mean, that's just kind of looking forward to for the possibility of that. You know, that's what you don't want to see, man. The NBA just suffered a huge loss of Kobe Bryant dying. He wasn't even playing. You know, just God forbid something like that happens to one of the premier players in the league, because it's something that's going to open yourself up to so much criticism, despite an obvious waiver being signed. You know.
So I feel like we have two different. So I agree with you guys. So Mike, yes, that would be horrible. I forgot what you said, Trey, but I was agreeing with you when you said it, or was it Rod? Whoever was talking, I agreed with you. So I don't remember what you said, but I agreed. But I think that. Oh, you said they're just going to return. They'll look at the numbers, but I think beyond that, my overall answer to Mike's question, I think, is still relevant. Even if we wait, like even if everything stays on hiatus, we don't know how close we are to this protective gear that could actually put us back in play now. Now, I mean, maybe only 24 people have worn masks in the history of the NBA, and it was specifically to protect their noses or protect their eyes or whatever. So it's a different kind of situation. But if the alternative is no sports, I think that people will get on board pretty quickly with wearing the protective gear. And I think that that protective gear that will completely protect you from the spread of coronavirus or COVID-19 is is a reality. I believe that it's definitely coming. So I don't believe that the risk will be there. It'll just be the new normal as far as what you've got to wear on your face to be protected. And it won't be optional like the early days of Rodney and his buddies where they went from no helmets to leather helmets to the option of a helmet and that whole thing. Like this won't be optional for anyone. Do you guys think I'm crazy? Like, what do you think about?
I mean, yeah, I mean, because the way things are, of course, but I mean, there's also this thing that I think that is starting to become a thing is the importance of sports. You know, a lot of people, you know, are looking at this thing as not even being a necessity now. You know, obviously we're fans of sports, so you know, we cover it, and you know, we want to see the evolution of it. But you know, there's a lot of people out there that just aren't seeing it as important in these times. You know, and I think that's the reason why a lot of this new movement has happened because of the absence of sports and, you know, entertainment stories, you know, dudes acting up at concerts or, you know, even athletes acting up after the games at bars, and, you know, and that becoming part of the news. I mean, there's so many things that just aren't happening now. You know, I don't know how this world is going to evolve when it comes to, you know, that reimagining of, you know, the importance of sports now. You know, there's so many things that have been, you know, created and even, you know, invented, you know, during this time. You know, so I mean, I hope for the young kids out there, because I know a lot of young kids who are very gifted athletes. You know, I hope they're able to realize their dream. But you know, as this world enters another dimension effectively, you know, in terms of how we see each other and interact with each other, you know, in these times of quarantine, you know, I mean, what will become of, you know, this same importance, this same tribal, you know, love for sports that, you know, we're all accustomed to. You know, will it really be something, or how will things change?
Yet to be seen. Yet to be seen. But so many people are making this a political issue instead of a health issue,
Yeah, that's crazy.
and that's the problem. You know, they start looking at the numbers, and then they say, "Oh, it's just liberals trying to overblow it." And then the other side is saying, "Oh, we got a health problem," and they don't want to recognize it. And then you got the other ones, you know, a third group saying, "Got a health problem, but you know, they're just trying to push medicine on us. We don't want to take it." So I don't know. I was glad to get an email seeing that they have electronic whistles for officials, because I know, you know, I'm one that's kind of like a germaphobe, and I hate touching the ball and all that stuff, and then grabbing my whistle and putting it back in my mouth to blow it. So that's one step that I've seen that I like. It would be weird flicking a switch in my hand to, you know, blow a whistle for me. I would have to get used to that. But over time, if that's what's going to help and need it, so be it. Just got to get used to it.
Yeah, and then that, you know, that's coming from Rod. He had to get used to, you know, no longer walking and riding horses, and then they built carriages, and then they had the Model T, and you know, just so on and so forth. And imagine, I mean, we got electric cars now. I mean, Rod wasn't necessarily ready for that. So if Rod could adjust through these 2,000 years, then 2020 years, then we can obviously adjust. Um, yeah, it'll be interesting. And boy, those that politicize it, it is sick and sickening. I was a party to Trey getting into it with someone on Instagram the other day, actually in defense of me. We're definitely not going to talk about who this person was or is, but it. I made a post, or I posted about people thinking that this whole thing is a hoax, and people saying things like, "Hey, First, you told me that masks work, but now you're telling me masks didn't work. So you're closing all the restaurants. Why don't you choose a narrative? And so my post was about those that are making statements like that. And what I'm trying to impress upon them is if you and your buddies all wore their masks at said restaurants and at said gatherings, then the pandemic, the effects of the pandemic would, well, the pandemic itself would be on the decline and we wouldn't be on the incline and maybe these places wouldn't be closing. Well, this person took that personally and felt the need to just go really left with it. And then Trey got into it with that person. And it was just really, really, really telling that people really do believe that this doesn't exist. And it was like, hey, even if you feel invincible, which is what I've been saying for 19 prior episodes, even if you feel invincible, just know that you could be asymptomatic and you could be spreading it to other people. So just take precautions.
A lot of people.
I was looking at
from the top with 4 or 5, you know?
Yeah. I looked at the series Pandemic from 2007, and they had the exact people that you guys were talking about, the people politicizing, you know, the mask issue. It was crazy. But you know, it's this is crazy to me, man. Like, this is really a B movie from the 90s. That's what we're living in right now, because the caricatures of us, you know, are becoming the face of us now.
Mm-hmm.
You know, like, what's hard with just putting on a mask, man? You know what I'm saying? What's hard with putting on a mask and walking around and, you know, I mean, I got one with a little aspirator on it now, which helps me breathe a little better. But you know, people who are complaining about this are ridiculous to me, man. There's this Trump paranoia too. I mean, everything ain't about him.
Yeah. So there we are. And now we've come to the closeout. So once again, I want to thank our Anchor and Spotify listenership. I want to thank our YouTube viewership. And we are at the point of the episode that we call Closeout. We'll give our final thoughts. I'll actually go first. Just found out that Amy Cooper, probably better known as the Central Park Karen, who accused the black man that was doing his duty as a bird watcher, just watching birds, accused him of attacking her and reported him to, like, was on a 911 call frantic while he was filming her. Thank goodness he was filming her. And it just came back from the Manhattan district attorney that she will be prosecuted. And the Manhattan district attorney, Cyrus Vance, also asked that anyone else who has had this happen to them in his district, please reach out to his office so that all of these people can be prosecuted. It is now time for this crap to end. So if we go back to what Rodney said earlier in the episode, he talked about the tragedy that befell George Floyd being in a sick twist of fate, the best thing that happened to us since the civil rights movement. And I could insert joke here, but I won't. This is not the time. One of the things that has come to light, and it had already come to light for us, but other people are now paying attention to the people that they call the Karens throughout the country that have been wrongly accusing largely black men, but sometimes black women, or a lot of times black women also, of things that they're not doing. And again, this takes me back to the lynching of Emmett Till and how he was wrongfully accused and subsequently lynched, murdered. Just disgusting. And now these people are being held accountable. You may have seen the news about a similar instance in DC or the DMV area, wherein a man is accused of pushing a woman who didn't like the fact that he and his wife were building a patio or building something in their backyard. She didn't like that it was happening, so she was complaining about it, but she's on their property, and he tells her, get away, and she says, you pushed me, and then the other neighbors come out and say, no, he never touched you, but she's calling the police. This is someone that I met at UCLA. This is someone that I went to school with. This guy who he and his wife were victims of another Karen incident, someone that I went to UCLA with. So shout out to Fareed, and I'm glad that he and his wife and family are well. And I pray that people do not let racism defeat them. What you got, Trey?
First, if your name is Karen, it sucks for you right now. If your name is Karen, boy, if your name is Karen, it's bad for you right now. Yeah, man, just trying to add a little laughter to all this nonsense going on right now. But pretty much, man, through this whole time, I just want everybody to, keep your loved ones close to you. Practice the social distance. The mask is real, no matter what 45 says. He said we got it 99% under control. I don't know what fantasy he's in, but nothing's in control around that camp. So, yeah, man, and you might not think it's real until it actually hits home with you. But knowing people that know people that have it, it's real. So, wear your mask, stay home. It's nowhere to go. So you might as well just stay home. There's nowhere to go. Some people just love being out of the house. It's nowhere to go. Stay home and stay safe. Live to tell another story. Live to see another day. Trust me, we get through this, you can get out the house.
Absolutely. Thanks for that, Trey. What you got, Mizzo?
Everybody out there, listen, while this time, in this downtime, and it might be a downtime, forthcoming, if you want to learn about Black history, this is time to do it. In the downtime, go online, read about a certain figure, put down a figure every day. I want to know more about this name, which I've heard so much in the past, but I want to know more about him now. That guy for me is Malcolm X. I know you guys remember Manning Marable, professor of Columbia, came out with his version of Malcolm X's book. I just began to begin a relationship with this great man, and this was a book that he had been working on for 25 years. When it finally came out,
you guys hear what I'm hearing? Hey, Mike, you're very distorted. See if you can fix that. I'm gonna let Rod go because we don't want to miss any of what you're saying, but you're very distorted.
What's going on?
Yeah, I'm not joking with you either. You're distorted. Man, right at the end, you took Rodney's place. Here, go out and come in. Go ahead, Rod.
Just real quick, man. I hear a lot of talk about there are just as many, if not more, victims that die of the flu than this. And one thing I can say is I've never met anyone who died of the flu, but I've known a few people who've died of COVID-19. So that's a telling point for me. So continue to be safe. Let's get behind this movement of players supporting HBCUs. Let's push the issue. We all got kids who could potentially one day be great athletes, and we don't necessarily have to tell them to go to HBCUs, but we should at least make that an option. Help them make that an option. It starts with us. We can't tell the older kids who are already in college to just jump up and transfer. They got a lot on their plate and things to lose, but we can start with our younger generations by allowing them to understand why we have HBCUs in the first place and why HBCUs are special. Um, and that's about it, man. For me, just continue to be safe.
All right. Love it. I don't know if Mike is going to make it back, so we're going to give Mike a little placeholder real quick, give him a couple minutes. Mike would love to see this. This is October 20th, 2004. It's definitely right up his alley, brings back memories.
Yeah, he's definitely ain't coming back now.
It's a picture of the post-game celebration for those that are listening. This is October 20th, 2004. I talked about it earlier. After dispatching the Yankees in 7 games, my Red Sox, and I say my because they were my Red Sox at that time, my Red Sox pummeled the St. Louis Cardinals. They just didn't have a chance. Just absolutely took the life out of them. So too bad for them.
It's cold, man. It's cold. That is cold.
It was embarrassing. So yeah, I just love to give Mike the memories that he desires. Yeah. So all right. Well, it looks like Mike's not going to make it back. What we will do is let Mike lead off next week with his closeout from this week, because he was, I'm sure, sharing something very, very, very important for us and for you listeners and viewers. So unfortunately, he wasn't able to stay till the end today. But God willing, we'll be back next week also. Thank you for viewing. Thank you for listening. From the 4 of us, please. Oh, the 5 of us, because Munchie's here too. She doesn't seem very happy right now. She's frowning. Say hi. Say hi to everybody. Say hi, Munchie. Okay. Okay. Yeah. All right. Well, anyway, from the 4 of us at the Collective Podcast, even if you believe it's a hoax, please just wear the mask just for kicks. You could be asymptomatic, carrying the hoax virus, and you could save somebody's lives. Thank you very much. We love you. We out.
Yeah.